Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto was saved by his hidden bloodline queens and became their forbidden demon lord part 2? If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Chapter 3. What's up? Jason here with the next chapter of HSD Naruto. Naruto's pretty much settled into his new home and will now begin his training with the masters. His life was getting shittier and shittier until he nearly hit rock bottom in his own sensei abandoning him. Now, in the span of a couple of days, his life made a miraculous turn around with finding out that he had family, who took him in. His godfather is none other than one of the Densetsu no Sannin himself, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, and learning that he has not one, but two very cute fiancés and that they already liked him. Now, read the $ing FIC. The next morning, Ryozanpaku compound. It was barely 4 in the morning when Naruto received a tap on his shoulder. Mu Ni-chan, that you? He asked sleepily as he faced the person to did the tapping, only to find the wiry mustache man from the night before was in his face. Get up, was Akisumi's command, light seemingly coming from his eyes making him think it was a genjutsu. Ah, what the hell? Naruto exclaimed, grabbing his clock to check the time as it was still dark. 4 in the morning, what did you wake me for? He yelled. Because, it's morning, was the mustached man's simple reply, pointing to his window. Naruto looked outside of his window to see a crudely drawn picture of a sunrise with a few cows in the distance, held up by a pair of bandaged bronze hands. Naruto looked down at the holder of the picture who smiled back up at him. Apachai-san, the short blonde exclaimed. Appa, Ohayo, Naruto-chan, now you can play with Apachai. The Muay Thai master cheered merrily as he hopped down from his perch. What kind of nuthouse did I wind up in? He thought incredulously as he was hurried through the process of getting ready for his first day of training. As he reached for his signature jumpsuit, Akisumi's hand stopped him. No, you won't be wearing that eyesore anymore. Here, put this on, the mustached man told him, handing him a dojo gi. The gi was a simple white and came with white pants that were tied off with a white belt. They were actually a much better fit for him than his jumpsuit, which was baggy on him and way too big for his slight frame. To be brutally honest, he never liked wearing it in the first place, but it was all he could afford. The jujitsu master took in his new student's body type and build with a frown. There were telltale signs of malnutrition and many near-healed scars on his body that he believed Naruto wore the jumpsuit to cover up. It was a miracle that Naruto had such supple muscle mass for his thin frame. The potential is there. Let's test him out, he reasoned as he brought Naruto down to the dojo. On the way down, he was instructed to make several kage bunshin and send them to the Hokage's office, where they would meet with Jiraiya for ninjutsu and control training. The boy did as he was told, creating 20 clones. Alright, you guys heard the man. Get on over to the old man's office and see Kyufu. And no stopping for ramen, either. He ordered the clones, who all rogered up in unison before taking off in a mini stampede. Upon reaching the dojo, he saw the rest of the sensei sitting off to the side, with his granduncle with them and his cousin in a gi top and spandex shorts standing in the middle. What's going on, Nei-chan? He asked them confused. Shigure had a lot of trouble controlling herself from telling Naruto everything and snatching him up, but she kept herself in check. This will only help him and make him stronger. I will help you get stronger, Ototo-kun. This much I promise you. She swore to herself. Hayato cleared his throat to get things started. Naruto, this is to determine where you stand as of right now and what we should teach you. Mu will be your opponent. Do not be afraid to attacking her, but be prepared to fight as if your life depended on it. The elder told him seriously as he signaled the beginning of the match. Wah, was all he had time to say before Mu launched herself at him with blinding speed. Naruto hastily dodged her opening blow, which was a roundhouse kick to his head but left himself open for her follow-up. She caught him full in the face with a full knuckle punch and launched him back into the dojo wall. He recovered in mid-flight, stopping himself with the wall and using that to launch back into the fight. Naruto was quick and had decent raw power, no doubts about that, but he had no style at all, more like he was fighting on instinct alone. That was a fatal flaw that his sensei should have spotted and corrected, but either failed to do so, or completely ignored the problem. However, since he had no set style or discipline, he was essentially a blank slate to work with. That would make teaching him anything new that much easier to do, along with his natural curiosity and tenacity. All that, added together with his jaw-dropping stamina and his borderline regenerative healing and recovery, he was the perfect student for their extreme teaching style, meaning he'd have a good chance of actually surviving the training. The senseis were nearly drooling at that aspect and thinking maybe that dumb fox was actually useful for once in the boy's life. Back to the fight, Naruto was getting smacked around quite soundly by the much faster and more skilled Miu. The blonde girl didn't really give him much breathing room to set up many counters, and the ones he did get off were wild and ineffective. She got the same vibe as the senseis about Naruto's training, or lack thereof. It's like his training was completely neglected. The way he punches and kicks are all wrong. His balance is way off and he flounders for what to do next. However, his reflexes are lightning fast and his attacks pack a wallop when they are performed properly, not to mention the fact that he's naturally extremely agile and flexible, kind of like me. He has a lot of work ahead of him, but I have faith in him. He is a member of my family, after all, she thought with a sigh. The fight rolled on for another few minutes until Naruto dodged a punch and found an opening. Not wanting to waste it, he reached out to grapple with her, only to get a handful of her in his hands. She stopped immediately, as did he. But before she could even move or think, Naruto leapt away to the opposite side of the dojo like he had been burned and began to sputter out apologies profusely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I won't ever touch you again, I swear. Don't hit me, Sakura-chan. He cried out in habit. The usual course of action was that during the sparring sessions he was paired with Sakura. Every time he managed to get in a clean hit, she got really angry and beat him severely, calling him a filthy pervert for touching her. She did it so much that it became a conditioned reaction to accidentally touching almost any female. Miu was at a total loss as to what happened. She wasn't going to hit him for that since this was a sparring session and contact was expected, even if what he did was a complete accident. From what she could gather, this was a conditioned reaction, and from the name he blurted out, she knew who was responsible for doing such damage to his already fragile psyche. As she tried to get close to him and ask what was wrong, he scurried away from her in fear. Miu clenched her fists in rage, and it was taking all of her self-control for going out and tracking the pink-haired bully down and making her pay dearly for nearly mentally and emotionally crippling one of the only two remaining members of her family that she had left. Swooping in quickly, she snatched the shorter blonde into a tight embrace as she rocked him gently. Naruto tried to wriggle free and fight it, but Miu held firm. Shish. It's okay, Naruto-kun. I'm not angry with you, so just try to settle down. It was only an accident. The young woman soothed the boy as he stopped struggling and got himself back to normal. As he calmed himself, she gently let him go, Naruto standing up slowly. Thanks, Oni-chan. I needed that. He sniffled lightly as he thanked her. It was no problem, Naruto-kun. You're my family and a family always helps each other. Miu told him with a radiant smile. Family. I like this. Having a family, he thought as he was brought out of his musings by the concerned gazes of the masters. The sensei were all crowded around him, pondering what to do with him. Naruto instinctually averted his gaze from them, ashamed for how poorly he performed. He knew that Miu could have taken him down in only a few moves, but he knew that she was dragging it out. However, he thought that she was just toying with him, like Sasuke and Kakashi always did in their spars. Screwing his eyes shut, he braced himself for either the laughter at his expense or the long chewing session that sometimes followed his spars with his team, from all three teammates. I think I know how to fix this. One of the senseis, Kensai, spoke up. Naruto-chan, please follow me. The short Kenpo master asked of him. Stunned, Naruto got up to follow. Once outside, Kensai leaned in close to him. So, how was it? The short man asked his equally short new pupil. How was what? Naruto asked, totally confused. Miu-chan's. Were they soft? The short man asked in a pervy giggle as he pulled out an agonizingly familiar orange book. Wah. Hey, that's the same pervy book Kakashi always reads. Besides, I don't see Miu-chan that way, Ero-sensei. Naruto declared, pointing his finger at the short man. I may be a pervert, Naruto-chan, but at least I got you back to your old self again. Kensai told the fuming boy with a grin. This kid's going to be a blast to tease. The boy was stunned, to say the least. This guy went out of his way to help him and was even willing to be branded as a pervert to do so. I think I'm gonna like it here after all. Gee, thanks. I guess. Naruto mumbled quietly, kicking a pebble that was at his feet sheepishly. Don't worry, Gaki. How you reacted ain't your fault. Those bastards out there in the village did some real messed up shit to you, but we're gonna help you undo it every step of the way. But, Sakari stated as he and the other sensei walked out from the house. Shigure was careful to control herself, but inside she was screaming for the blood of a certain pink-haired girl. Akisame finished for him. They always say, you have to suffer for the cure, Naruto-kun. He told Naruto, the rest of the sensei sporting grins that were borderline sadistic that were making Naruto gulp loudly. Mew knew what that look meant and sent up a small prayer for him. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the village, one will find a small waterfall that feeds a stream to the north of the village near Hokage Mountain. It is here that we find the small horde that Naruto conjured up earlier that morning working on a chakra control exercise with Jiraiya. Come on, kid, I know you can do this. Just concentrate. The white-haired Sannin coached. After around a few more minutes of trying, Naruto's clones were getting the hang of the exercise. Hey, Kyufu, we're doing it. The clones whooped in glee as they danced on top of the water's surface. Jiraiya looked on with a smirk. That kid's got some crazy stamina, making all these shadow clones along with doing all that physical training with those Ryazanpaku guys. He'll really be something when he's grown. Minato, Kushina, you've got one amazing kid. The Sannin chuckled to himself as he called the clones over to himself. Hey kid, come over here and I'll show you another cool trick. He shouted out to the clones whose faces all lit up at the thought of learning something new. The clones nearly stampeded their way over to their godfather. Oh boy, what's next? One clone exclaimed. He had to hand it to the kid, he had a hell of a learning curve if shown properly and patiently, along with the fact that he took to everything he was taught with fascination and wonder, just his father and even himself when they were Naruto's age. Okay, kiddo, step back and watch this. He announced as he began to concentrate and spin chakra in his right hand until it looked like a mini cyclone. Once it was ready, Jiraiya thrust the spinning orb of chakra into a large boulder, the orb eating its way through the tough rock like choji at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Rasengan. The clones all went slack-jawed with awe. One clone found its voice to voice their opinion of what they just bore witness to. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. He cheered, the rest of the clones following suit. The Sannin was glad that it drew such a reaction from his godson, hoping to impress him somehow. Alright kid, calm down, now. That was the Rasengan, a jutsu created by the fourth Hokage himself. All it is chakra shaping and manipulation, no hand seals to use, so that Uchiha Kid or Kakashi can't copy it. I know that Kakashi tried to use the same principle for his Reikiri, but he still needs hand seals, makes too much noise and takes too long to generate. He told the clones as he started to pass out water balloons to them. What are these for? One of them asked. That it for learning the first step of the Rasengan, rotation. You need to be able to spin the chakra in various directions, like a cyclone. Do this and burst the balloon to complete the first exercise. He told the clones as he went to the shade of a tree to stretch out, leaving the clones to pick the exercise apart and figure it out on their own. Occasionally, he'd hear one or more of the clones curse loudly as they kept at it. Finally, after 2 hours, he heard the clones begin to make a ruckus. Hot damn, I did it. Nah, show us how. Come on, show us. Jiraiya opened up a bleary eye to see that the clones had indeed cracked the first stage, shredding the balloons and spreading the water inside. With a groan, the 50-year-old stood up to his full height and ambled over to the cheering clones. He looked up at the sky to see that they were losing daylight fast, deciding that it was time to call it a day. Oi, kid, come over here for a minute. What's up, Kyufu? A clone asked. It's time to call it quits for the day, kid. Go ahead and dispel yourselves a few at a time. He instructed as the clones nodded and obeyed, poofing away in groups of 4 at a time. After the last of the clones disappeared, the Toad Sage allowed himself a smirk. Damn, That kid burned right through the first stage of the Rasengan training in a few hours. He's already hot on Minato's heels, even if that idiot Hitaki didn't train him right. The kid's a natural just like Minato, but he's got spirit like Kushina. It's almost like they're still here. He mused to himself as he resigned himself to the nearest bar before he headed out to the hot springs for his research. Research, here I come. The great pervert giggled as he went on his merry way with an extra spring in his step. Back at Ryuzanpaku, inside the dojo of the compound, Naruto lay in a crumpled heap. Man, this is rough, he wheezed as he shakily stood back up to face his sensei at the moment, Kensai. As he did this, he contemplated the day he'd had so far. Flashback. After he had calmed down from his small episode earlier, the masters began to iron out a training schedule for their newest student the same way they settled all their disputes, by a game of rock, paper, scissors. Through this method, they decided that Akisame would start him off for the first 2 hours. Akisame and Kensai were the only two who had limited time, due to the fact that Kensai ran an acupuncture clinic and his endurance and pain threshold were already tremendous, so he started Naruto out on strength exercises. First, his task was to strengthen Naruto's core body, meaning his abdominal strength. For this, he suspended Naruto upside down over a fire, having him swing back and forth to avoid getting burned while Akisame himself fanned the flames. How do you like my training, Naruto-kun? I call it the dance of the frying squid, he told his young student serenely. Are you nuts? This hurts like hell, Naruto exclaimed loudly. Actually Naruto-kun, I am quite sane. This exercise will build up your core strength, enabling you to put much more power behind your attacks and building up on your already impressive chakra and endurance. I assure you that there is a method to our madness, as it were. Akisame instructed as he set Naruto back to work on his exercise. Somehow, his words didn't really do much to assure the vertically challenged blonde. After his first training session was over, it was decided that it was Apachai's turn to train him, or play depending on your point of view. The bronze-skinned giant took this opportunity to introduce his new and first student to the beginnings of Muay Thai, his native fighting style from a small island nation to the southeast of the continent they were on. Apachai slipped into the basic stance. Appa, Naruto-chan, this is the stance for Muay Thai, Tangard Muay. He instructed the boy as Naruto copied his stance. Since he was right-handed, not left like Apachai, his left leg and fist were in front with his right in back, both hands up in a basic defensive posture. Apachai made small correction here and there until he was satisfied. Now, do what Apachai do. The tall man chirped as he went through the basic movements and attacks of the style, which seemed oddly natural to the boy. For today, he was introduced to the basic punches of the style, or chak. From there, Naruto was put in front of a training post to practice for the rest of his time. This guy's not so bad and I'm really getting into this style, Naruto thought as he continued to work. Unfortunately, Apachai was prone to getting bored easily and walked up to the training post next to his new student. Appa, he shouted as he kicked straight up, sending his log into low orbit. Naruto, who was at ground zero for the training implement's impromptu launch, stood rooted to his spot in both awe and sheer terror. What the hell is this guy? He shouted in his mind, his voice and basic motor functions taking a small break and possibly running for their lives at this point. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Fire Country, where our two Tems are currently training. Sasuke, activate your Sharingan for what I'm about to show you. Kakashi instructed Emo Pants the Great, aka Sasuke. What for? He asked with disdain. Kakashi didn't get the chance to answer as a large object was screaming down upon them, landing directly on Kakashi. Sasuke's sweat dropped for a moment. Was that what was supposed to happen? He asked in a bored tone as he inspected the object, which turned out to be a training post, but it was charred from re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Where the hell did this come from? No matter. Hey, Kakashi, get up and give me more jutsu. He told the broken form of his teacher, lightly prodding him with his foot. Back at Ryuzanpaku, Apachai's time was up and the next person took over. This one was more reluctant to train with the boy, stating that he didn't train brats. This naturally put a bee under Naruto's bonnet as he stomped into the living area to fetch his reluctant sensei. Oi, Sakari-sensei. Let's go, he told the massive and scarred man. Go away kid, I don't train brats, he yelled, nearly tossing Naruto back with just the wind from his shout, but the blonde was, if anything, stubborn as a mule. No way, pal, I need you to train me and I ain't goin' nowhere until you do. Naruto declared as he sat down on the couch in Sakari's room, crossing his arms and jutting his chin in defiance in true Naruto style. Even though he was testing Naruto's legendary stubbornness, he was still impressed with the boy. The mountain of a man started to chuckle lightly. It kept getting a little louder over the next minute, until full-blown laughter erupted from the man. Ha ha, you've got guts, Gaki. I think you and I are gonna get along just fine. He chortled as he stood up, leaving a confused blonde in his wake. Oi, you comin' or what, Gaki? He called out to his student with a grin. After that, the two got started on the basics of Sakari's martial art, karate. Starting where Apachai did with his instruction, he began with the basic katas of the style and had Naruto work on his form, punching and kicking away on the same training post as before. Now, karate is a martial art that is meant to enable an unarmed person to fight an armed person on equal grounds. Most of your strength will be coming from your core body and your hips. Sakari said he had to go get something and had Naruto continue until he returned, but Naruto was so engrossed in what he was doing that he zoned out. Sakari came back with an iron girder and slammed it into the ground next to his student's dummy. Well, I might as well get in some light practice, Gaki. He joked with his student, who stopped punching to gawk at what was about to happen. Chessu. Sakari roared as his fist slammed into the metal construction item, warping the girder with his first hit and continuing to go to town with a series of blows so rapid, he couldn't even see them until he stopped, leaving the girder distorted beyond all recognition. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. He muttered in awe as his time limit ran out. Next on the list was Shigure. She was especially reluctant about training since her methods were rather rough, but remembered that Kushina trained her in a similar method and Naruto healed like nobody's business. Her first exercise was an accuracy drill with his thrown weapons, with her constantly taking pot shots at him to distract him. OWWW. Hey, watch it. Naruto yelped after a kunai grazed his face. Naruto-kun. This is for your own good, she told him in her usual monotone voice as she flung more sharp and pointy objects at her pseudo little brother. After a target practice session that left Naruto feeling like the target, she pulled out a wooden bakken and threw it to him. Nay, what's this for? He asked, slightly afraid of what the answer might be. His fears were unwarranted, this time, as she began to explain. I wish to teach you how to use a sword. On guard, she told him as she lunged for him with her bakken at blinding speeds. Acting out of desperation, he slashed at her with the training blade, only to miss, letting her get behind him and swat him on his with her training sword, hard. Naruto nearly jumped out of his skin while the pain in his crotch subsided. Let that be a lesson to you, Naruto-kun, she told him as she began to tutor him about the basic parts of the sword and in the basic movements of the sword, such as the 6 cuts and the 8 different critical hit spots on a person. The last hour was dedicated to these 2 things until we come to our last instructor of the day, Kensai. Nay, Ero-sensei, what style do you use? Naruto asked curiously. To answer that question, Kensai led him over to a small creek that was near the bathhouse. A passerby, a painfully familiar passerby with blonde hair that used to be long and a big mouth **Ino, just happened to be passing by. What's that idiot Naruto doing with that old guy? She wondered as her curiosity got the better of her. Kensai noticed her, but smirked to himself, turning his attention back to Naruto. Well, Naruto-chan, I am known as a master of all forms of kung fu and kenpo. Even the Hyuga Jyuken and the Goken that your friend Lee uses have their origins in my arts, so I can teach you how to fight a Hyuga without getting shut down. Naruto nearly had stars in his eyes. Whoa, that's neat, he exclaimed. If you will allow me, I will demonstrate a technique from one of the styles I shall be teaching you, Hakukuken. He told the star-struck boy as he calmly walked over to the water's edge and placed a palm just over the water's surface. He took in a deep breath and let it out slowly. Ah! He grunted as the surface of the water seemed to explode around his palm thrust. The most amazing thing about it was that his palm never touched the water. It was the sheer force of the blow that caused the water to seemingly detonate like someone ignited an exploding tag. What the hell was that? That old man's training that doofus Naruto. I gotta ask Forehead about this. She thought as she continued to watch. What the hell was that, Ero-sensei? That was freaking awesome. Naruto cheered. That was just a basic palm thrust, but the purpose of this demonstration was to show you the aim of this art, to achieve maximum effect with minimal watched movement. I think it will help you with your concentration and patience, my boy. The short master told Naruto honestly and seriously. Cool. It doesn't even matter that Kakashi-tem abandoned me anymore. I'm learning way more from you guys in one day than he taught me in months. Naruto cheered. I agree, Naruto-chan. Hitaki was certainly a poor example of a teacher. Abandoning a student is one of the worst sins a sensei can commit against their student. Now come, we have much to cover within the 2 hours we've been allotted. He told his pupil, guiding him inside. Ino, who was watching the whole thing, left quickly to tell Sakura the juicy gossip that she just found. Even if they were rivals, she still traded gossip with her ex-best friend. Flashback end. Naruto was snapped out of his reminiscing about his day when he heard Mew call out that dinner was ready. When the world came back into focus, he found the fist of his sensei millimeters from his face. At the mention of food, Kensai pulled a complete 180 from serious sensei to a chow hound in under a second. Just as Naruto was about to head inside to eat dinner, the clones he had sent with Jiraiya had dispersed, their memories hitting him like one of Sakura's punches. He staggered as the knowledge flowed into him, causing Mew to worry. Naru-chan, are you okay? She asked in worry as she supported the staggering boy. Why yeah, I'm okay, Mew-ni-chan. He told her as he steadied himself to enter the dining hall. Dinner was in and of itself an adventure. He was seated in between the two most notorious food thieves in the house, Kensai and Apachai. No sooner than the food was set before him the two swooped in on his rice bowl, but Naruto had been dealing with the likes of them his whole life, so he leaned back slightly to evade them and nearly gulped down the rice in one fell swoop. Hayato and the rest saw this and were happy that he wasn't the type to let his guard down easily, but knew that the life that he'd lived thus far was responsible for this. That was good rice, Oni-chan. Naruto called out merrily as he held out his bowl for seconds. The other two sensei spared a grin for the foxy-eyed blonde between them. It had been quite a while since their meal times had become fun and even longer since Shiger had actually joined them for supper. Now here she was, sitting amongst them with her pet mouse Tuchumaru perched atop her shoulder, eating and actually smiling slightly. Hayato knew then and there that having Naruto live with them from now on was a wonderful idea. It was bringing everyone closer together and making them much happier. Mew was smiling much more now since she now had something of a little brother to care for and to dote on. Sakari was a little happier with having the ballsy blonde around, it was like having a nephew for him. Kensai saw much of himself in Naruto's carefree and jolly nature while Apachai was happy to have a playmate again since the nice man in the spandex became too busy to spar with him, having his own students to teach. Now, they were a family. Meanwhile, at the Yamanaka flower shop, Ino had called Sakura over to her family's flower shop to dish out the dirt on what her idiotic teammate was up to this time. What is it, Ino pig? I have better things I could be doing, like winning Sasuke-kun's heart. Sakura told her rival pointedly. Ino scoffed. Yeah right, just keep telling yourself that, forehead. Anyway, I saw something weird today and it revolved around your teammate. What? Quit stalking Sasuke-kun, pig. Sakura screeched. Who said that I was talking about Sasuke-kun? I meant Naruto. Ino amended. Why should I care about that idiot? Ouch. That was a little too harsh, forehead. I don't even treat my teammates like that. Ino thought as she told Sakura everything she overheard. After hearing everything, Sakura just scoffed. So what? That little idiot will just lose to Neji, anyway. I'm not surprised that Kakashi-sensei kicked him to the curb since Sasuke-kun deserved the training more anyway. He'd be better off if Neji just beat him up so badly, that he gets kicked off of our team. We never wanted him there, anyway. Ino couldn't believe that his ex-best friend was so heartless. Sakura, how could you be so cruel? Even if Naruto is a little annoying sometimes, he doesn't deserve that from you. She thought. Sakura. I think you should leave now. Ino told her in an even, yet firm tone. Her father instilled into her the fact that every Konoha shinobi is her comrade and deserves that much respect, at least. Naruto had earned his place in the finals and Ino was beginning to see that the dead last wasn't as such anymore, especially with what she heard earlier that day from the strange old man and Naruto himself. Ino's thoughts carried her back to a conversation she had with her father upon the first time she met her fellow blonde. Flashback. A 6-year-old Ino came bounding into the shop that her family owned from the first day of her 4th year at the academy. "Daddy, I'm home," she yelled into the shop. A tall man with a long, sandy blonde ponytail stepped out. "Hello there, princess. How was your first day?" he asked her, his wife, Yuki, stepping up behind him. "It was kinda boring. Haruka-sensei just talked all day long, but we have a new kid in our class," she told them. "A new kid?" Inoichi's ears perked up at this. "Oh really? What's his name?" "It sounds kind of funny, Uzumaki Naruto," she answered. Her parents both went rigid, then relaxed. "Are you sure, dear?" her mother asked. "Yeah, but the teachers were pretty mean to him. They always sent him out of the classroom and yelled at him, even when he didn't do anything wrong," she told her parents, who were having their own little discussion. She could pick out words like, needless hate, and, poor boy, but couldn't tell what they were talking about. "Ino-chan, you should try to be his friend. He sounds like he needs one pretty badly," Yuki told her daughter. "But, why is everyone so mean to him?" she asked innocently. "I can't tell you that, but please, be nice to him. His life's been hard enough," her father nearly pleaded. Ino had never seen her father like that before. "Oh okay," she agreed. The next few days, she spent watching how he was treated, but got into what the main crowd was thinking, like most children do, and began to mistreat him, as well. Ino was shaken out of her thoughts by Sakura, who was trying to get her attention. "Hey pig, why should I go home? Don't tell me you actually felt sorry for that loser," the pinkett jeered. "Just leave," Ino told her firmly, pointing for the door. "Fine then. I'll just tell Sasuke-kun that you aren't devoted to him anymore, pig," she yelled from down the street. Ino didn't even have the mind to argue back. "Is this what I've become? Some shallow girl that would wish harm on a comrade just because they aren't Sasuke-kun?" she asked herself as she flipped the business sign to closed for the evening. Sakura was stomping down the street in a huff over all that she learned. "That baka, Naruto. Who does he think he is, getting training from someone like that and not Sasuke-kun? I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind." Pinkzilla ranted as she stomped down toward Ryuzanpaku, her blonde target etched firmly in her crosshairs. Chapter 4. Hey y'all. I back with another chapter of HSD Naruto. We are now on the final leg of Naruto's road to the Chunin exams. We finally introduce Author HSD Kenichi Denizen in the form of Renka, as per popular demand. Also, we will see the return of the slug princess, Tsunade. Konoha won't know what hit it, will it? Ryouzanpaku gates. Sakura had stomped her way through town and made a beeline for the place that Ino had described. She did, however, wonder why the people she asked about it thought that she was insane for wanting to actually go there. That, unfortunately, did nothing to quell the anger she harbored for her blonde teammate at this moment in time. "How dare that blonde idiot get training that my Sasuke-kun doesn't get? I'm gonna turn his face into hamburger meat," she ranted loudly as she continued to rampage through the rural streets that lead away from the village. 5 minutes later saw her in front of the massive and ridiculously heavy gates of Ryuzanpaku. She was at first marveling at the size of the compound, but her fangirl side reared its ugly head. "Whatever. Sasuke-kun's clan compound is so much better than this dump," she scoffed as she tried to open the gates, only to find that they wouldn't budge. "What the hell? Hey, Naruto baka, get out here," she screeched loudly until she heard somebody land beside her. She got a good look at this newcomer and saw that it was a girl her age, only far more developed than her, and had her long black hair up in braids that were held up by a pair of bell-like ornaments. She also wore white thigh-highs with a short Chinese-style dress and topped off by black slipper-like shoes. "Who are you yelling at?" she asked, her cat-like eyes blinking with curiosity. "I want that Naruto baka out here right now." I bet he thinks that if he gets training from some old fart here, he can beat Sasuke-kun. The she-banshee screeched. That's strange. I don't remember anyone by that name living here. The new girl mused out loud as she walked up to the massive gates. Those doors are locked. The pink-haired girl scoffed. The dark-haired girl was starting to not like this girl as she placed both hands on the gate and took a deep breath. Tanpa. With an inhumanly powerful thrust, the doors flew open to allow entry. Sakura's jaw dropped at the sight. What the hell was that? You said you were looking for someone, right? The new girl drawled out, snapping her out of her awe. Right. She stammered slightly as she followed along. Once inside the compound, she got a good look around to see that it was mostly open grounds and had two main structures, a dojo and a main house that she supposed housed the people that lived there. Off to the side was a training area that had multiple training dummies and posts, along with some other strange items, like an oddly deformed iron girder that had fist-shaped dents in it. She was currently being led up to the main house and her guide opened up the door leading inside. Ni hao, Papa, her guide shouted out into a hallway. Sakura moved up to see a group of people that were sitting down around a table, eating dinner. Many were adult men with one woman. Renka-chan. How have you been, my daughter? A short, bald man in black clothes stated as he stood up to greet her. Not too bad, Papa. I heard that you guys took on a new disciple and came to see for myself. That true? Renka asked curiously. Yes. Naruto-chan is a very interesting boy. Reminds me of myself when I was your age. He mused, not knowing the bomb that he unwittingly set off. What? Where is that baka? I want him out here now. Sakura roared. Hayato and the other masters were not amused by this rather rude outburst from a total stranger that had yet to introduce herself. Not one little bit. Calmest of the bunch, Akisame, called out to her. And who might you be, young lady? The mustachio asked the banshee. Oh, my name is Sakura. She replied. No sooner than the name left her mouth, ki came crashing into her from all directions. And what might you require from our student at such an hour? Akisame asked, eyebrow raised. Sakura launched into a diatribe about all that she had heard from someone else about Naruto receiving special training from somebody that her precious Sasuke wasn't. It was at the end of that rant that her target appeared from the kitchen and her rage-filled eyes locked onto him, already stomping over to him. She grabbed him by the front of the shirt angrily. What the hell do you think you're doing here, Dobi? Sasuke-kun needs this training, not you, so get out of here. Nobody wants you around anyway. She ranted. As she pulled back her fist to clock him, the person he followed out of the kitchen, who she never even saw, snagged her wrist and was wrenching down with a powerful grip. Excuse me, but what do you think you're doing to my Otudo-kun? Mew asked in a deadly yet sweet-sounding voice, ki practically gushing from her. Sakura now felt the ki that was flooding the room hit her and looked around to see that the adults in the room were all glaring at her, the woman in the short kimono unsheathing her blade slowly while standing up. She had unwittingly cast herself into the lion's den. We've all heard and seen what you've done to this boy. My Akabantu cries for blood. Shigure said in her usual tone, only instead of boredom, this time she had malice and rage in her words. The pink-haired girl was now petrified with fear. There was no Kakashi, no Sasuke, or even Naruto to save her this time and she would have to reap what she had sown. Mew noticed this and spoke out. I believe that you shouldn't come around here anymore, Haruno-san. Also, if you ever hurt him like you have again, we will break you. Mew snarled. Sakura could tell, even in her current state, that this was no threat, but a promise. She looked over to Naruto with pleading eyes to try and get some form of comfort from him like he always would in the past, but he wasn't budging. Naruto. Why? Why won't you help me? Aren't I your teammate? Don't you like me anymore? She whimpered, trying to play his sympathy. It really turned the stomachs of Mew and Shigure to hear this pathetic girl try to charm him, but they were glad when his even gaze turned into a small glare. I know what you're trying to do and I'd like it if you stopped right now. I'm not the same person that you bullied around anymore. If you're finished, leave. The blonde told her in a cold tone as he turned his back to her. Sakura's pride took a major blow as she ran crying from the compound, most likely all the way home. Damn that baka. He was supposed to be my loyal pet, but those people turned him against me. You will pay for this, baka. She mentally snarled as she continued to dash home. Naruto sighed as she left. I can't believe I used to like her. Renka was having thoughts of her own. Hey, what was that chick's deal with you? That could not have been normal. Naruto looked over at who spoke. Hey, who are you? He asked. He had to admit that she was very pretty and provocatively dressed, not to mention that she was generously endowed. Oh, sorry about that. I'm Renka, Ma Renka. She told him cheerfully as she took in what he looked like. He's kind of scrawny and short, but he's also kind of cute, too. Ma, are you related to Ero-sensei? He asked. Ah, yes. She is my daughter, Renka. Renka, this is our new pupil, Uzumaki Naruto-chan. Kensai replied. Renka stifled a giggle at how he addressed her father. You called him Ero-sensei. That was hilarious, she exclaimed. I can definitely get to like this boy. Maybe I should stay a while. She thought, and she remembered that her uncle Tyuki, her mother's brother, and her cousin Ayame, owned a ramen stand here in the village. I wonder how they're doing. Now, back to what I was asking. What was her problem with you, anyway? Renka asked. You might as well have a seat, cause this is gonna take a little while. He told her as he told the tale of his life, or at least not the parts with the Kyuubi. When he was starting to show his fatigue, he turned in for the night. Even with his inhuman stamina, making waves of shadow clones along with getting the crap beat out of him all day wore him out. Goodnight, Renka-chan, he told her with a large yawn. He had a very long day and the following days would prove to be just as harsh, but they were necessary if he wanted to stay alive against Neji and anyone else that he might wind up fighting. Hayato took over for him and filled in the rest, verifying that all that was said was the truth. Next, she was told of how Sakura's treatment of Naruto had caused a psychological episode earlier that day. Renka seethed at the fact that this girl thought that she could just walk all over someone and scar him so badly like she did. He was only being nice to her and she used him as her personal punching bag, all because she was brainlessly devoted to that arrogant Uchiha. The more she heard about the clan and the person himself, the angrier she got. She had heard about the Uchiha clan and from what she had learned, many of them were little better than thieves who stole the hard work and secrets of others, even their allies, to gain power. So, Naruto-kun is stuck on a team with that worthless little fangirl and an Uchiha with an overinflated ego. To top that off, he had a worthless sensei who only taught the Uchiha so that he could ride on his coattails. I don't see how it could have been any worse than it already is. Renka muttered. However, her opinion of the young blonde she just met had taken a massive leap forward, just for the sheer amount of patience it must have taken to keep from going insane. She was especially interested in finding out why he was hated so much by the village as a whole. She looked to her father once again. Father, I will be staying here in the village for the time being, at least until the exams are over. Renka informed her father. Kensai was many things, such as a world-class pervert, but not blind or dumb. He could see that his daughter had an underlying motive for staying here and it had to do with his newest student. She had taken a keen interest in him and far be it for him to discourage her. But, he had to warn her about the engagements he already had, should she decide to pursue him. That can wait for now. I first need to see how she feels about him and that will take time. It's usually best to let these things run their course. It worked for Minato and Kushina and myself, so why not? The Kenpo master reasoned. That's okay with me, my dear. Maybe Miu-chan will let you stay in her room. Hayato offered. Thank you, elder. Maybe I can help Naruto-kun out a bit as a sparring partner. She suggested, blushing slightly. Renka was no slouch as a fighter herself, having been trained since birth to take over her father's skills when he finally passes. She could easily beat a Chunin with taijutsu alone and could probably take out Sasuke with ease. Hayato nodded his head at the offer. That could work out well. It would give the boy more styles to learn from and give him a wider skill and experience base to draw from. Miu-chan, would you mind if Miss Renka shared your room? He asked his granddaughter. Miu merely smiled. If Renka was around to help her and Naruto out, things would be far easier. I don't mind, Oji-san. The blonde girl replied as she led Renka to her room to get settled in. The other masters all decided to turn in for the night as well, but Hayato asked Kensai to talk with him for a moment. I'm sure that you noticed it as well. I know. My daughter is taking an interest in the boy. I could see it in her eyes and in the request to stay here, otherwise she would never have considered it. She is obsessed with finding a strong husband and she has her sights set on Naruto-chan. However, I don't think she's aware of the engagements. If she continues to show interest and tries to actively pursue him, I will tell her. My other concern is if you approve, seeing as you are the boy's guardian. Kensai replied. Hayato closed his eyes to consider it. Renka-chan is a strong girl and spirited, but also a good girl and she will treat him with respect. I have no problem with it, but you and I will have to talk with Hiyashi and Tenman to see if they will allow this, since this agreement was hammered out before they were born. Hayato explained. It made perfect sense to Kensai, but he could also see just what made Naruto so appealing to these girls. He was a good kid and while he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, he had the right stuff where it counted the most despite all that he had to go through over the years. These girls know what they want in a future groom. Smart, unlike these fangirls that I've seen in recent times. He reasoned. After their heart-to-heart, all had turned in and went to sleep. TIMESKIP, 1 month. Man, a lot can happen in the span of just 1 month, 30 days, 720 hours, 43,200 minutes. However you want to count it, much can and did happen to one Uzumaki Naruto. Flashback. Naruto had been training not only with the masters of Ryu Zanpaku, but also studying ninjutsu and fuinjutsu with Jiraiya of the Sannin who was also his godfather. For all of this training, his Kage Bunshin proved itself to be invaluable with how he was soaking up all of the knowledge like a sponge. In 1 month's time, he managed to master the Rasengan enough to the point that it was combat effective, but he still needed a clone to help him with the manipulation. He had also gone with Jiraiya for a day and signed the Toad summoning contract. Jiraiya had told him that his own father had signed the contract before him, then he signed it and passed it down to Naruto's father, who the sage saw as his own son, and would now pass it down to Naruto. After 2 hours of frustration, Naruto finally summoned a small orange toad named Gamakichi. The spunky little toad and our favorite blonde had hit it off wonderfully as he continued to try and summon bigger toads. Just when he was reaching his limit, he shoved all of the chakra he had left into the jutsu and it resulted in a massive explosion of smoke. Naruto felt like he was speeding up into the sky until the smoke cleared to reveal that he was standing on top of the nose of a massive toad that was the size of the Hokage monument. Oi! Who the hell summoned me? Jiraiya! Get out here! The great toad bellowed. Jiraiya paled. He knew that Gamabunta didn't like being summoned for no reason and moved to hide, but Naruto was out in the open. Gamabunta noticed a boy that was panting on his nose. Oi, Yaki! Where's that pervert Jiraiya? I need to talk with that fool about summoning me for no reason. Naruto looked confused for a moment, but answered the massive creature. Hey, Boss Toad. I was the one that summoned you. He answered sheepishly. The toad's eyes narrowed, but then it broke out into earth-rumbling laughter. You summon me? Ha ha ha. That's a good joke, Gaki. Now tell me where Jiraiya is. Naruto still didn't like being dismissed so easily, but he was beat to a response by Gamakichi. Oi, Pops, he called out, raising a webbed foot in greeting. Pops, this huge freaking toad is Kichi's father. Naruto thought. Huh, Gamakichi, what are you doing here? The massive toad asked. The kid here was telling the truth, Pops. He summoned me, too, and he's alright with me. He's a pretty fun guy. Kichi answered. Is that a fact? Bunta said aloud, more to himself than anyone else. Minato, your boy looks just like you. The toad boss though sadly as he decided to accept Naruto as a summoner. I believe you, kid. You are now one of my henchmen, part of the family, kiddo. Now, to seal the deal like men, we'll have a drink, nay. Bunta announced as he pulled out his sake gourd. The hardest part was for a small enough portion to go to Naruto, but the drop that came out of the bottle nearly drowned the young summoner. The end result was that Naruto took in the equivalent of a milk jug's worth of alcohol, enough to put Tsunade into an alcohol-induced stupor. After the two of them finished their drink, Naruto was shit-faced drunk and stumbling around. Bunta himself was singing a sappy ballad with Naruto tunelessly joining in, annoying just about everyone in the area that wasn't 3 sheets to the wind. Right by me Gaki. Call me out fair another drink sometime and a good fight. Ya nay, he called out as he poofed away, leaving Naruto passed out next to the river bank they were at. Jiraiya took a look at his godson, laid out spread eagle, snoring away and pinched the bridge of his nose. Ah, how am I going to explain this to Hayato? He grumbled as he scooped up the dozing boy and carried him back to new home, Ryuzanpaku, where he got an earful from Mew for letting him drink. Next in his ninjutsu training was furthering the Rasengan. He was told that the Rasengan took the fourth 3 years to develop and learn, and Jiraiya himself almost 2 years to master. Naruto knew that he didn't have that amount of time to learn it, so he was putting every effort into completing it. After 3 weeks, he was on the final stage of the Rasengan training while his taijutsu training raged on. Both of his fiancées lent themselves out as sparring partners, Hinata for anti-Jiyuken training and Reichi to help sharpen his skills. Renka also helped out by filling in for her father at times since she knew what he was teaching the boy. Most of the masters had something going on the side, like Akisame running a chiropractic clinic and Kensai running a shiatsu and acupuncture clinic. Sakari sometimes was gone for a few days on an occasional bodyguard gig, and Shigure on occasion took an Anbu mission that was close to home. All of the proceeds went into helping to run the compound and stave off foreclosure, so the girls and Naruto all pitched in to help. Speaking of the girls, Kensai, Jiraiya, and Hayato sought out Hiyashi and Tenman to discuss Renka's interest in their future son-in-law. Hiyashi was a little pensive about introducing a new girl into the equation and asked to meet with her. He was surprised and intrigued by this girl's sharp wit and confidence, getting the feeling that she could help draw Hinata further out of her shell and push her harder. Tenman and Kensai had been old friends for a very long time and had even studied under the same master at one point in time. He already knew Renka and she and Reichi were already friends, so he had no problem with it, either. Next, Hinata and Reichi were taken aside by their fathers and this issue was discussed in its entirety. Hinata was already comfortable with the fact that she would be sharing with Reichi, but she wanted to get to know Renka a little better. From what she knew already, Renka was almost like a female Naruto in some ways, which made her easier to get used to. Reichi was more comfortable with the idea after she found out that her father supported it. Finally, we come to Naruto himself. He was at first oblivious to Renka advances. However, during sparring times, she gave him little choice but to notice that she liked him by managing to put them into precarious situations like making him fall on top of her or making sure that their faces came very close and she would comment on his features, mainly his eyes and whiskers. The purple-haired girl was quite aggressive in making sure she got her message across. Naruto came to talk with Kensai about it, which is what he and Hayato were waiting for. The two of them explained that should Naruto accept her, she would be allowed into the betrothal group. "3 girls." The blonde stammered out before passing out with a nosebleed and a wide grin on his face. On a training ground on the other side of the village, Guy could actually sense that someone had discovered the power of youth. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi was reading his Ika Ika book when a certain feeling of pride washed over him. "I feel like I should be very proud of someone." At Team 8's training grounds where the rest of Team 8 was training, Shino did something that would scar the rest of his teammates forever. Why he screamed at the top of his lungs. As he stopped he noted the bewildered expressions of his teammates. "Sorry. That just sort of came out," was his normal, monotone reply. Back with our blonde hero, Jiraiya and Kensai both slammed into Eki mode, as they referred to it as, upon contemplating the extreme luck that the boy was blessed with. Hayato brought them back down to earth by stating the fact that his luck was hard-won from years of suffering, to which they solemnly agreed. Now, we move on to Naruto's taijutsu training. Now, anyone who said that Naruto was a dumbass wouldn't be complete right, but not wrong either. He just learned things differently and the type of training he was receiving was right up his alley. You see, he is what's called a kinesthetic learner, meaning that he learns by actually doing rather than by theory alone. Through this method, Naruto soaked up the styles of his masters like a sponge, taking in everything with childlike enthusiasm, awe and wonder. After getting down the basic movements for each style of each sensei, he badged to experiment by mixing up the movements. Soon, as he was plugging away on a training post, he mixed in the movements of all of the sensei on the same punch and wound up breaking the post in half. Nearby, Akisame had been watching him train and raised an eyebrow at what his student had done and accomplished. He noticed that he combined the movements for all of the marital arts he'd been taught into one single blow and walked over to the dumbfounded boy. Naruto-kun, do you even realize what you just did? He asked calmly. No, Akisame-sensei. He replied, thinking he'd done something wrong. The mustachio sighed. They were still having a rough time breaking him of feeling that every time they stop him he did something to anger them. Naruto-kun, I want you to try what you just did again on another target. Naruto gulped, but wanted to succeed. Heya! He roared as he repeated the process again, only this time adding more force into the blow. The training post was nearly reduced to sawdust as Naruto pulled back his fist, looking in awe as Akisame smiled. What you just did was combine the basic movements for all of our styles into one blow, exponentially increasing the power of the punch. Now, all marital arts have a rhythm of sorts, but this had no rhythm at all, making the blow extremely difficult to predict or perceive. I think you just created our signature technique, unique to only you. I'm proud of you. The wiry jujitsu master applauded him. Naruto couldn't believe it. He had made this powerful taijutsu technique all on his own and his masters were proud of him. This filled him with happiness and a renewed drive for improvement. On another note, Jiraiya's summons and the Anbu team sent out by Sarutobi had succeeded in locating Tsunade, who was currently 2 days away from Konoha itself. The toads had informed her that she still had something in the village, a living relation. Spurred by this, Tsunade made all possible haste in returning to the village, beating the Anbu back by nearly half a day. The blonde Sannin stormed right up to Sarutobi's office while she ordered her assistant Shizune to check them into a hotel room, marching right over the Chunin guards and an Anbu to do so. Sensei, is it true? Is there still someone left? She asked him. Calm yourself Tsunade and sit down. We have much to discuss. He informed her, Jiraiya and Hayato flickering in beside him. Jiraiya, Furinji-sama, what's going on here? Tsunade asked, puzzled. Tsunade-chan, how have you been, my dear? The elder blonde man asked of her. I've been well, Furinji-sama. May I ask what's going on here? I was just told that I still have a relation here in the village so I came right back. Sarutobi nodded to the two men to have a seat as well as he began to tell her everything, especially that her godson is still alive and living in the village. The beautiful Sannin was reduced to tears at how bad Naruto's life had been and at the fact that she was not even aware of his survival. However, her sadness was replaced with another emotion, rage. Pure, primal rage, at how she had been lied to by the council. Damn it all. I could have taken him with me. Raised him myself. How could they do this to me? To him. To Minato and Kushina. What kind of monsters have you allowed to make these decisions? She ranted at the elderly Hokage, who did nothing to defend himself. He knew that he could have alerted Tsunade, but he allowed the council to tie his hands. I know that you would have taken him with you, but allowing an infant jinchūriki to leave the village was too much of a risk. If he were captured, he could have been turned against us by any power unfriendly to ours, specifically an old friend of ours that has an unnatural love of snakes. Sarutobi told her. He also informed her as to what Orochimaru was planning, a full-scale invasion of the village and ultimately, its total destruction. Orochimaru. I'll rip that son of a bitch to shreds before he lays a hand on him. She growled, her maternal instincts kicking in. That's not all, Tsunade. Orochimaru knows of his existence and has already gotten to him. During the second stage of the Chunin exams, his team ran into Orochimaru, who was targeting the Uchiha for recruitment. During which, Naruto fought with and managed to drive away Orochimaru, but not before he put another seal on the boy, the Gogyo Fuin. This put him at a severe disadvantage in the next stage of the exam, but the boy pulled through. His sensei, one Kakashi Hatake, was informed of his condition, but chose to ignore it in favor of Uchiha Sasuke. He also abandoned Naruto to train that Uchiha brat exclusively. Jiraiya told her with a growl, as he was the one that both spotted the malfunctioning seal and fixed it. This was yet another thing that nearly made the woman seek out and destroy the ones that wronged her godson. However, she was also proud of the fact that he managed to stand up to the snake freak and stood his ground. That slimy bastard. I'll see to him soon enough. But enough of that, how is the brat doing now? Hayato smirked slightly. He's alive and as healthy as a boy could be. I have taken him into my home as his legal guardian and I have been training him after he was abandoned. Also, I believe that as his godmother, you have the right to know about an extenuating circumstance surrounding him and an agreement made by his father to a couple of old friends of his. I believe you remember Hyuga Hiyashi and Lee Tenman. Yeah, I do. Minato Gaki's best friends. What about them? Well, the two of them had daughters while Minato had a son. I believe you can figure out what happened. Hayato told her with a grin. Her eyes widened. That brat has a small harem on his hands. She said aloud before breaking out into a smirk. Hey, the entire world shits all over him, but he sure got compensated for it, didn't he? She laughed. So, when can I meet the brat and his gang? She added once she stopped laughing. I'll take you to him personally, Tsunade-chan. Hayato told her, standing to his full and impressive height of over 6 feet 6 inches. With that, Sarutobi told his secretary that he would be in the village in official business as they all flickered from the office to the compound. Once at the compound, she was greeted by the sight of a small boy with a shock of wild, golden blonde hair, riding around on the shoulders of a bronze-skinned giant like a bucking bronco, whooping and hollering at the top of his lungs. Ya hhhoo. Giddy yap, Apachai-sensei. Tsunade smiled at the sight. He has Minato's hair and Kushina's face. It's uncanny. She commented to herself as the human bronco came to a stop near her as Apachai noticed the newcomer. Appa, new person? He asked, to which Hayato nodded. Yes, Apachai-kun. If you would be so kind as to round up the others in the dining room, we all need to talk about something. He instructed. Naruto slid off of his shoulders and got a good look at this new lady and blushed slightly. She's really pretty, he thought. Who are you? He asked in bewilderment. Tsunade smiled softly at his as she ruffled his hair playfully. I'll tell you in a few minutes, Gaki. She told him playfully. Oi, Gaki, let's go to the dining room. We have a lot to tell you. Jiraiya told the boy, who nodded and followed his kyufu. The masters all started to file in but they all noticed the blonde woman sitting next to her teammate. Ah, Tsunade-sama. It's been many years since I've seen you. Akisame greeted her respectfully. He studied physiology under her for a few years while she was in the village. Tsunade-hime. It's been so long. Kensai called out, tipping his hat. So you're the famous Tsunade-sama. You hold your age well. Sakari greeted merrily. Shigure's greeting was silent, yet still respectful. She gave a deep bow to the slug princess, while Apachai gave the pretty lady a somewhat childish wave. Mew came out of the kitchen with fresh tea. Oh, I didn't know you had guests, Oji-sama. She told her grandfather. Mew-chan, please sit. This concerns you, as well. He told her as he turned his attention to the great-nephew. Naruto-chan. He started as he explained everything that had been talked about in the Hokage's office. Everything about Tsunade and how she wasn't as his godmother, and why she didn't know about him until recently. Naruto sat in silence. So, you won't go anywhere, Tsunade Obasan? He asked her, scooting near her. Auntie. Well, it's way better than Ba-chan. She reasoned. That's right, Gaki. I'm not going anywhere. Come here, kiddo. She told him in a playful tone as she snatched him up into an embrace. Shigure watched impassively, but was finding it harder to keep her connection to Naruto a secret until he is told of his parents. To that end, she was training him hard to make Chunin to meet the stipulation placed upon him by Jiraiya and the Hokage. Once that was all settled, Shizune was informed of her master's whereabouts and homed right in on her. There, she learned that Naruto was her master's godchild, so she gladly took on the role as another big sister to him. Her nurturing nature helped Naruto warm up to her very quickly, just like it helped Mew and Ayame crack through Naruto's masks. His brides-to-be were also told about who his legendary godmother was and got to meet her personally. All three girls were thrilled to meet someone so famous and legendary as the princess of the Sannin, Senju Tsunade. She, in turn, wanted to meet the girls that would be marrying her godson in a few years for herself and was pleased, very pleased. All three girls had their wits about them, didn't act like scatter-brained fangirls, and they were all around good, respectable young ladies with fire in them. To support herself in the village, Sarutobi made her the hospital director and head doctor due to her unmatched skills as a medic, with her assistant Shizune filling in the number 2 spot. From there, she began to trim the fat, as she called it, cutting down on doctors and nurses that couldn't cut the mustard and conduction refresher training for those that remained. She also got the go-ahead to start up the combat medic program that she always wanted to implement. Hinata expressed interest in this new program, and with her Byakugan plus her homemade medicines and salves, she would be a natural as one. Hiyashi supported her wholeheartedly in this endeavor, as she would be the first Hyuga to ever be a combat medic. On the issue of the Hyuga clan, there was plenty of opposition to Hiyashi's decision to honor the marriage pact that he and Minato had devised long ago. It turned out that the Elder Council was going to marry Hinata off because she wanted to join the main and branch houses once again and get rid of the caged bird seal that had done so much damage to their family. Since the Prince of Kuma no Kuni was out, they wanted to go with Plan B, marrying her off to the heir of the Inuzuka clan, Kiba. Hiyashi would not budge an inch for his decision, so they offered a compromise. Should Naruto defeat Neji in the tournament, she would be free to marry Naruto. But, if Neji was victorious, she would be branded with the seal and married off. Now, Kiba was pretty upset with losing to Naruto in the prelims, but his smugness kicked into high gear once he learned that if Naruto lost to Neji, Hinata would be his. He wanted her to bear his pups and destroy Naruto's dreams, just to rub it in his face. He even came by the compound to gloat, but made a grave error. Kiba was strutting around near the compound and happened upon Naruto training with his fiancés and Master Sakari and knew all of them sparring. He strutted up to Hinata and snagged her by the arm. "Hey, let her go, dog breath." Naruto yelled. "Why should I, Dobi? She's gonna be mine anyway, so she might as well get used to hanging off of my arm. Since you're such a loser anyway, I might as well take the rest of these hotties from you." No Dobi could ever please a woman. He sneered. Naturally, Naruto didn't take this very well, but neither did the rest of the people present. Sakari looked ready to kill on sight while Reichi and Renka were ready to turn Hisanto a throw rug. Hinata was nearly retching with disgust. Kiba was an alright teammate when he wasn't being a total creep and pervert, but this was going too far. The most pissed off of them all, thought, was Miu. Normally, Miu was a very gentle and kind young woman, a young woman that one would assume wouldn't even hurt a fly. However, should you piss her off, even hell couldn't hide you from her wrath. The beautiful blonde-haired girl strode over to the dog boy, his eyes leering at her figure. "Hey, what's this? Somebody jumping from the Dobi's ship already, huh?" Kiba jeered at Naruto, but missed Miu cracking her knuckles, an aura of rage behind her that was making even Sakari cringe. As Kiba reached out to take her arm, Miu snatched it and twisted his arm to the point of breaking in one smooth, lightning-fast action. Kiba quickly found that the more he tried to struggle, the tighter her grip became. "Now, you listen to me and you listen good. I don't ever want to see you around here again, and should I catch you bothering any one of us, there won't be enough of you left to clean up with a mop." Miu growled at him, making Akamaru bolt off for home. She then shoved him away and the group started off back to the compound. However, Kiba was, if anything, a very sore loser, and his arrogant pride had him trying to attack Miu from the back. In his mind, he needed to dominate this girl. Fortunately, his strike never hit its target. Sakari, a literal mountain of muscle, was blocking it, Kiba's claws not even scratching him. With only a paralyzing glare and a low growl, the karate master made the arrogant Inuzuka both piss and crap himself before passing out in fear. The news of TH's new condition, once it reached them, infuriated the masters and Naruto, but only served to further fuel his desire to train harder and get stronger. Tsunade offered him more chakra control exercises to make his chakra stretch even further than before, but he didn't have much time to master them. He got though only 2 of them when the time for the final stage of the Chunin exams rolled around. Flashback end. Ryozanpaku compound. Sunlight broke over Hokage Mountain, splashing into the village below. People were already up and about, trying to take care of business beforehand on this special day. The Chunin exam finals were to be held at 1000 this morning and nobody wanted to miss this. The fight card for the day was star-studded. Several highly talented genin from the shinobi clans were fighting today, along with the Hyuga prodigy and the last Uchiha. However, to the chagrin of many, the jinchūriki of the Kyuubi was also fighting, and many hoped that his opponent would actually kill him. Betting pools had been started on the winners of the matches. Naruto's odds for winning were abysmal to non-existent, over 1,001. However, the person in question was just rising out of bed and getting himself prepared for the day. For him, defeat is not an option, as Hinata's well-being was on the line. Should he be defeated by Neji, Hinata would be forced to marry the dog boy of Team 8, someone whose hormones should be kept on a leash. Naruto slipped on his training uniform and was preparing to strap on his weapon's holster and pouch when something was thrown at him. He turned around to see who threw what to find all of the masters smiling at him. This time, it wasn't that insane, sadistic smile. These were filled with pride. He reached down and opened the package that was tossed at him to reveal a new uniform. The top was that of karate, from Sakari. Hope you like it, Gaki. The pants were from Chinese make but open at the cuff, from Kensai. They have a loose fit for Xarta movement. There were hand and ankle wrappings like what Apachai wore. Appa. These wrappings will protect your hands and feet, Naruto-chan. Next was a chain-mail armor shirt that was handcrafted by Shigure herself. 2. Protect you. This armor can stop a spear. Finally, a set of teko, from the elder himself. I have been saving these for a long time, Naruto-chan. They belong to your father, but now is the time to pass them down to you, my boy. Shigure-chan has been kind enough to resize them to fit you. These teko will protect you just as they did your father. Hayato smiled at him, having him change into them. After a few minutes, Naruto came back out. How do I look? He asked. Like a warrior, Gaki. Like a warrior. Sakari told him with a smirk and a thumbs up. Naruto clenched his fists as he tried to stave off tears, but a few tears of pride slid down his face. Thank you, all of you. He whispered as Mew put an arm around him. We're all proud of you, Naruto-kun. Now go out there and win. She told him as they all got themselves ready to leave. Once preparations were made, the troop left en masse, bound for the Chunin exam stadium. And that's it for this fanfic, part 2 of the Forbidden Demon Lord story. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more epic Naruto What If stories. Comment below your favorite moment and what you want to see in part 3. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.